What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down Devonta Smith versus JAMARR Chase and their route running ability. So we're going to be comparing the two. We're going to be talking about, while they're both very different receivers, we're going to be talking about some of the things that they do similar, some of the things that they do differently, and why it makes them such great wide receivers and why they're able to create so much separation. But first things first, fellas, I want to talk to you about a 28-day wide receiver gym program that you can get. It's a specific exercise that wide receivers need to do in the gym to improve their route running, hands, explosiveness, speed. Check out that very first link in the description if you want to learn how you can gain access to this 28-day plan specifically for wide receivers. Let's get started with this breakdown. So first route we're going to be looking at here is from Devonta Smith this offseason, and we're going to be looking at this rocker step kind of like out route against this more so physical DB where we work a split release, okay? So, and there's another thing that we're going to talk about with Chase, just kind of like how he's able to create some separation, how he's able to make cuts at the top of the route, and how you guys are able to be salesmen, okay? That's number one when you're running routes. So you see how we got a little bit of space to work. We're off the ball right here. So if this DB wants to get hands on me, he has to address me. You know what I mean? And when a DB addresses you and he maybe lunges at you, he can be a little bit off balance. Now, this DB's a little bit more patient. He keeps his base so he doesn't lunge at us. But anytime we're in this situation where we're off the ball, we shouldn't necessarily be afraid of the guy lunging at me and trying to go at my neck or trying to choke me off, because I can just dip my shoulder, get back over the top and go, and maybe do a quick little step back release and then get up into the route, right? So we don't necessarily have to worry about that. So what Smith decides to go with right here is he decides to go with this like split release, right? So what's a split release? Exactly how it sounds. You just bring your back leg up to your front leg and you kind of freeze this DB, and whichever leg you bring up, or not whichever leg you bring up, but whichever side you're going to, you want to be pushing off of that leg and dip into the inside, right? And you see how he avoids. He just goes right now. But that split, what it serves to do is we get kind of a read on this DB. We see how he's going to be playing me, right? We see that he kind of drifts to the outside a little bit, takes that first step, but we're able to take the inside release on this. Let's just go. If I can get his feet to stop with that split release, that's a great thing that you can do with that split, is you kind of freeze a DB, then we leave him. We push off whichever leg that we want to break to that side. I swat that hand, and let's work back to get over the top so I can make this move on this route. Now, he decides to go with this rocker step at the top of the route, and that's what we're going to be looking at with Chase here in a second. Well, not necessarily a rocker step, but it's going to be like kind of how you could sell that 1-2. So you see how when he gets up at the top of the route, he goes 1-2. And you see how much he throws his upper half to the outside. I know this is kind of tough to see, but he goes 1, really pay attention to him in the white, throws the upper half. And you see, where's that DB looking? He's looking at our hips, right? So anytime we got a DB in a situation where we're able to restack him, and he's trailing my back hip, if I can sell with my upper half and you really throw and you've got to angle your shoulders, angle your hips, and angle your momentum to the outside, but also at the same time keep your toes forward, that's what can get him to undercut this thing, and then I can create some separation, right? So it's all about how well can you sell with your upper half. Can you guys get this DB to move off the platform, whether it's off the line, at the top of the route, anytime you're throwing a 1-2 or even a 3-step, whatever it is, wide step, can you sell with your upper half? And that's the goal, right? Selling with your upper half is the goal, and that's what gets him off this platform, or gets him to move off balance, or gets him to undercut a route and get a little bit greedy, and then I create some separation. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Great job utilizing the split. Get up to over the top, and then hit him with that 1-2, get him to lean to the inside. Great route. So now we're going to be looking at this release here from JAMARR Chase on this slant route. Now, I want to make it very clear that this is not a first read slant. Guarantee this is not a first read slant because of how long this takes. So if you guys are going to take this release with you and kind of use this on your own, or any kind of release that takes a while like this, please do not use it on the first read. If he was a first read play where, let's say, it's double slant action right here and he's got to get off this thing right now, probably not a release we're going to go with. Probably going to go with something a little bit quicker, try to get this DB to jump to the outside, maybe like a wide step, and then go. I do not want to spend all this time right here if I am the first read, right? So you see how when he comes here, he kind of works him to the inside, and you see how the quarterback's eyes start left? That means he's coming back to him later. So that's when I can work this kind of stuff, right? It's not about just doing the same thing over and over again, okay? So now let's get to the comparison side of it, because we're going to talk about that 1-2, right? That's what we just looked at with Smith. So you see when he goes here and he works this 1-2 off the line, look at how much he's pushing off that first step. That's something that a lot of people don't understand. Anytime they work a rocker step, anytime they work a 1-2 off the line, that first step that you guys plant with is like a push step. That step serves to push you to the outside and throw your hip. You kind of like open up, right? Not open up, open out. Like you're going out. You're crossing a guy up. You're playing basketball. Because what would happen, the reason why I say I don't want to say open up, is because if you guys open up your toes on this, kind of like what we were talking about with Smith, your hips will open up. And then you're slow, and then you have no burst back to the inside here, right? You want to make sure that you keep your toes forward. And again, what are you supposed to sell with? What's the goal? You want to sell with your shoulders and your hips, but maintain that explosive position with your lower half the entire time so I get him to move off that platform. And now you can see I can push out of there. Look at Chase's foot right here. He pushes, right? And when we could drive off of that leg and push, that's explosion. So what's going to move this DB off the platform is your upper half, how sudden you are with your feet, how much you're selling this thing, how much you're stepping outside of his frame. And then what accelerates you out of this break is how much you're pushing off that thing, how much you're pushing off that cut, and how much you're driving off of this thing. Because again, it's about phase 1, which is the stem, phase 2, which is the break, and then phase 3 is the acceleration. But you can't have phase 3 without a good phase 2 of this route, okay? So again, that double up. You look at both guys, how they're selling with their upper half. They're making this DB move off that platform because they're selling with their hips, but at the same time, they're keeping their toes forward, weight on the inside part of their feet, and they're driving out, right? So let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. So he's here, work to the outside, hit him with that 1-2, then accelerate. And again, when are we using that release? We're using that release when we are a third or a fourth read. Quarterbacks maybe coming back to us on like a high-low concept or maybe a left or right concept where he comes back to us late. I'm not working that if I'm on the play side and I'm the first or the second read. Now, let's take a look at this kind of like stop route here from Devonta Smith, or like kind of, yeah, stop route. That's, I was going to say curl, but yeah, it's more of a stop. So when we come off here, the most important thing that I want to talk about now is because we're going to be looking at this stop route, then we're going to be looking at a whip route from JAMARR Chase. Now, the thing about this is that every single great route runner, fellas, has got great hips. That's just the fact of the matter. It is. Again, we talked about this a little bit yesterday in the breakdown we did with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, that everybody's a different receiver. Everybody kind of has their own different tendencies. Everybody's built a little bit different. You know, they do different things on the field. They're asked to do different things on the field. But the same consistent thing that you see popping up consistently is hips. A lot of it, what we're talking about right now, the upper half selling the route. So those are the things that you guys got to apply to your game, right? You might be in a different system than these guys, and you might not run the same routes, but they're still asking you to do similar things. That's what you got to take away from this, right? So you see when Smith goes here, what's number one here, right? Very fast guy, so what's he need to do? He needs to sell vertical, right? Being able to sell vertical is number one. That's what gets his DB to turn his hips. That's what gets that DB to turn and run with me. And this is exactly where we want this DB to be, because if you can be in stride, good pad level, and then be able to break on a dime, that's very hard to stop. So you see how he never changes his stride. Look when he gets into this break and when he snaps down, he's right in stride. He's in a good pad level, snaps right in stride. There's no indicator. You see how he's able to drop, and that DB's still up tall, still trying to run, right? That's how you create separation, because you sell fade. You got to sell whatever that first move is. In this next clip with Chase, we're going to be looking at a whip, like I said. So he's got to sell that slant portion of it. He's got to be fast into the slant, but the only thing that slows you down, this brings me to my point, the only thing that slows you down when you're running full speed or when you're selling vertical is your hips. That's the only thing. You can't slow your speed down. You cannot start chopping your feet. You cannot raise your pad level up, because those are all indicators. And if you give a DB an indicator, he feels your speed start to change. He sees your pad level raise. He sees your feet start to chop. What's he going to do? He's going to slow himself down. That's not selling vertical, right? If we're going 100 miles an hour, DB has to eventually commit to it. If you make him believe it, he eventually has to commit to you. And now how you decelerate, you snap down, get in a low explosive position, and you see how this DB's nice and tall. He's leaning back. He's on his heels, ripped off this thing just a little bit, and you see how he kind of gets stuck at the top of the break because of how high he was, because of how he was leaning back. And then I'm able to explode back to the ball and create some separation, and now I'm in space to work, right? That's all set up by that vertical stem, all set up, or not necessarily, yeah, stem pretty much, but selling vertical, that's what I'm trying to get at, and then dropping my hips on a dime. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. So coming off here, gives a little bit of like kind of a hesitation move, bursts up vertical, snaps those hips off, and then comes back to that ball. It's a great job by Devonta Smith. So now we're going to be looking at this whip route here from Chase, right? Now again, you see how violent he's able to drop his hips into this thing. Now I know it's a whip, I know it's not a stop route, but again, all breaks are very, like, again, you see, from watching this film and trying to find film on both of these guys, you see that they're asked to do very different things. So we can't compare every single route that they run, because they're asked to do different things. It's a different offense. It's a different type of system, right? So you're going to have different routes. Like, you look at the routes that we broke down the other day. We did a Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs comparison, right? It was mostly filmed from when Diggs was with the Vikings, because it's a different system. You're asked to do different things in different systems. You're asked to run different routes in different systems, but we look at the consistencies that all these guys have, right? So now, even on a whip route, what are we trying to sell? We're trying to sell slant. We're trying to threaten this DB to the inside. We're trying to get him to overcommit and be greedy and try to jump this slant and break this thing up, right? So what do I have to do? On any double move, what's a DB taught to look for? Indicator. Is this receiver slowing down? Is he popping his chest up? Is he chopping his feet? What's he doing? But if we come off this break right here and we go break and we burst up to the inside, and you see how he commits his hips, commits his shoulders, and he's got a lot of speed over the middle trying to cross this DB's face, right? That's what gets him to jump on this thing. That's what gets him to sit, and then I can just snap it off right now, get in this explosive position. Now, on a whip route, it's a little bit different of a snap, but the violent hips is the goal, right? The violent hips being able to snap your inside foot, hook that outside leg around, but you're in that explosive position because why? Because you can't have a good phase 3 of a route without a good phase 2 of a route. So that phase 2 is the energy creation phase, right? Phase 2, I want to create as much energy as possible. Let's create some explosion, and that explosion comes from your hips. It's like a 40-yard dash. You don't just stand up and run. Just like how you come into a break, you don't just stand up into a break, chop your steps, and then try to run out of there. You create some explosion with those hips so it propels you back to the outside, and you could drive off of this leg and then accelerate, right? So that's kind of the main things that you got to get out of this route, the main things that you want to be able to accomplish with any kind of route where you're dropping your hips, where you're focused on selling vertical, selling slant, like if it's a post out route, maybe it's like just a straight up out route. You got to be able to sell vertical, got to be able to cut on a dime, and how we do that is by having violent hips. Let's watch this route from Chase one more time. So again, sells the slant, drops my hips, create that explosion to shoot back outside. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all, please leave those in the comments below. And also, guys, if you want a 28-day wide receiver gym program, check out that very first link in the description. All the specific exercises wide receivers need to do. I'll see you guys next time.